Ronnie Landis, and I do want to say thank you guys for coming in here and accompanying me as I present this message to you. This is something that has excited me and really stimulated me on all levels over the last 4 years, and I really didn't know previously the life that I was living, the goals that I was pursuing, and everything that was dominating my thought process. I had no idea that it would lead me to this point where I become a messenger for kind of the raw food movement. One of those people that has decided to really take on this message that's been passed on through the last 150 years. And it's really an honor for me to be a voice for that message, because in the times that we live in right now, this is a message that really needs to be transmitted. It needs to be heard, right? And I think we're all kind of privy to that in some way or another, where we realize that the ways of the old are not always conducive to what we want moving on into the future, right? Where it's very easy for us to get comfortable with doing things the way our parents did it, the way our grandparents did it, and just kind of going through that same model. But at some point, we have to actually stop and use discernment and look at the results that the previous generations got, doing the things that they did, and see if those methods are still going to be applicable to where we are now, right? Because we're living in a different world than we did 50 years ago, right? We're living in a different world than we did 100 years ago. We know that the state of our food is in a far different situation, and what I want to present to you guys is a few different very basic ideas, but if you allow those basic ideas to grab a hold of you, they become very deep imprintations on your entire life, really. So that's what I want to talk to you guys about. The title of this talk is "You Are What You Eat," and I feel like this really is the blueprint of the entire human existence. And what I mean by that is, as I dive deeper down this road of going through the cleansing and detoxification processes of my body and the nutrification processes, meaning that I actually put nutrients into my body, right? Instead of everything else that was sold to me, that's been sold to all of us, that we've all been consuming since day one, right? It really shifted my peripheral filters. These two things, the way that I see the world, the way that I'm actually facilitating my own reality, right? A little background on me. Before I got into any of this, my whole life was going in the direction of professional athletics. I've been a martial artist since I was 4 years old, and that's actually I'm very grateful for that, walking that path for most of my life, because that influenced me from a philosophical standpoint. I always had these questions going on when I was a young child, of just kind of questioning everything around me, questioning the structure that we live in and that we've kind of just accepted, right? And the spiritual aspect of it, following Eastern philosophy, and the way that certain cultures that I followed and became a part of would conduct their life, and the philosophies and the ideals that they lived by. And I had no idea that it would actually be so interrelated to what I'm into now, which is raw plant food, vegetarianism, activating genius on all levels, and the necessity of doing that right now in 2012, and using food as the prime, not the only vehicle, because as we know in this community, there's many different vehicles that we can use to activate genius and to start to access the deeper regions of potential that we have inside of us. But I feel like nutrition and food is the most direct pathway, right? I mean, if anything is influencing the way we see the reality, the way our brain is working, it's got to be the food we're ingesting, right? Is your brain, for example, is 2% your body weight, but 20 to 30% of the calories that you intake is going straight to feed this thing. And as this thing starts to work, it's either working for you or it's working against you, depending on how you've built it, or how you're feeding it, depending on what kind of fuel and what kind of thoughts that we're entertaining on a day-to-day basis, right? I did a lecture yesterday in Studio City, and it was all about creating your ideal lifestyle. Whatever lifestyle you want to create for you based on your goals and what you want out of your life, you have to create some kind of outline of what your value systems are and what's most important to you. And one of those things was